Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. Today is clearly a video on orchids. I did go out and buy a total of 4. I got these 2 larger, I believe they're Magnifica Phalaenopsis orchids, and then these 2 smaller ones. I do have a few other varieties right now that are currently in bloom, and I was feeling a little bit inspired. So I thought I'd run out and grab a couple more just for a Wally Grow project. I've never seen any Phalaenopsis or really any orchids in a Wally Grow pot. If you're unfamiliar with this, there is a little bracket that attaches to your wall, and this bucket, so to speak, fits on that bracket and it hangs on your wall. I know a lot of times some people will actually place these on a piece of wood and hang that on the wall, just because these are, most varieties are epiphytic, which means they latch on to other trees and like walls and that sort of thing, and they grow up obtaining moisture and nutrients from ambient air, rain, and that sort of thing. So that is the goal for today, and obviously I don't advocate for taking a plant out of its pot and putting it in something new, like literally the same day that you bring it home. But I want to make this video just because sometimes when you bring an orchid home, you bring it to a different environment, and then all the flowers will fall off. So I want to make this video while this plant is still in bloom, and that way you can see these beautiful, beautiful flowers. There is a little bit of work that I have to do before placing them in the Wally Grow pot. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about their basic care, some of the things to look out for, and obviously I'm going to clean these up a little bit because some of these roots just looking a little crusty, but overall they're looking really, really good. So let's get started. Here are the 2 other varieties that I have right now that are currently in bloom. This one is just gorgeous, but I absolutely love this one right here. I don't know if you can see it, maybe it's getting blown out by the light. I'm just going to pull that to the side a little bit, but look at that little landing pad, this little piece right here. I find them so fascinating. Obviously, I need to better familiarize myself with the terminology of the flowers and that sort of thing. Now, I feel like these plants aren't appreciated unless they're in bloom. Obviously, they're absolutely gorgeous when they are flowering, but there's something just about these kind of regular green floppy leaves. If it's not for you, if you don't appreciate just a regular leaf like that, there are other varieties like this one right here. I can't even remember the name of it. I'll leave it up on the screen here as well, but the foliage on these ones can be quite striking. Like, look at the patterns on this. And I know they can be a little bit trickier than just your regular Phalaenopsis orchids. These ones are pretty forgiving. You can let them get pretty dry, which I'll talk about watering and that sort of thing here in a minute. But if you're looking to step up your game a little bit, then definitely do some research and search out some orchids and definitely give them a try. So yeah, that's kind of the varieties that I have. There's a couple more back here, right on the table there, but they're currently not flowering. One is in the process of getting some new buds. Before I actually start talking about watering, I want to talk about the type of soil that they require. It's not even a soil, it's more of just a chunky mixture. They have to have a chunky, airy mixture. The new ones that I bought, whoops, I'm getting tangled up here. The new ones I bought are actually in a fairly good mix. It looks pretty chunky, nice and airy. That's exactly what you want. These 2 other ones that I bought, they're in this little like soil pod thing. It's the little spongy thing. Looks like maybe a little bit of chunky stuff. The roots are still good. They're nice and green. This one is in sphagnum moss. It's coming out of this today. I'm going to be removing it and putting it in a different pot. I might actually put this one in the Wally Grow as well. I'll just kind of size up the plants and see how much I can actually stuff in that Wally Grow. Just because these are epiphytes, they grow up trees, they don't actually grow in soil. There are some orchids that are called terrestrial orchids. They're usually those jewel orchids that have very striking leaves, I guess. Now, the way I tell whether my orchid needs to be watered or not is actually from the roots. You can see with these roots, they're looking a little bit on the silvery side, and they actually have little wrinkles along the roots themselves. This tells me that it is extremely dry, and obviously just check the soil as well. Like, this bark is absolutely bone dry. So what I do is I take my little squirt bottle. I do have a little misting wand as well, and then I like to just like saturate the orchid bark, but the roots as well. One thing that you'll notice is they go from a silvery color to green, to like a bright green, once they are, I guess, saturated with water. And that is a way to tell whether it needs water or not. So once it's dry, it kind of goes back to like a silver color, but this is how I water my orchids, and I just soak the roots and the soil. Now, a lot of times people will say to make sure that you don't get any water on the leaves or even in the crown of the plant. The reason for that is if you have water that just settles on the leaves, it just allows for rot. So basically the water will just sit there, it'll produce like a fungal issue or bacteria, that sort of thing, and it'll just rot the plant. Now, one way you can prevent this is if you have like a fan or something that can provide a little bit of airflow just to help evaporate water that are on the leaves. And I'm just going to turn it around and do the same thing for the back of the plant. And I'm going to water until I see it coming out the bottom of the drain hole. And I'm just going to make sure all those roots go from silver to a bright green. And then you can just judge by the weight of the pot, and then you can see there's some water coming out the bottom. You don't have to like get all of the roots, but this is kind of what I do is I put it in this little tray, and then I just kind of go crazy with the water. Just making sure every little piece of bark in the pot gets watered. And whatever you do, don't put ice cubes on the soil. It's meant to just have like a slow trickle of water, but put it in a sink, soak the soil, get a little spray bottle, just thoroughly saturate it, make sure it's watered, and then put it back in its pot or a little saucer type thing. Another cool thing I love about these orchids is not only when you have them in clear pots like this, you can see the roots are visible through the pot, but when you have them in terracotta and there's roots spilling out the side, and you can see them on top here, when they are green like this, that means they have chlorophyll in the root system, and they can help with photosynthesis. So not only the green leaves, but the roots can also help produce energy and sugars and that sort of thing to aid in the overall growth of the plants. All of my orchids are on this table right here, and they are supplied by artificial grow lights, and they also get light from these gooseneck Sansi grow lights from above. This one is the Mother Plant Spectrum, and this one right here is the Burena T10. Surprisingly, orchids need a lot of light, actually bright light. So anything that I look up online, it says like 1,000-foot candles or higher, which is very bright light. You often see these in shops and that sort of thing, or even people in people's homes when they have them in a dark corner, and they just aren't looking the greatest. So if yours is looking a little bit on the rougher side, try higher light. Make sure it's in a chunky soil. Just want to show what mine are in. So right here, you can see it's getting around maybe 270-foot candles, which is kind of on the high end of low light. Right here, same kind of thing. It's around 260-foot candles, 300, depending on kind of the angle. So that's medium light. And these ones right here, yeah, they're in the low light range. It's only about 200-foot candles. So, and then up here, from the Sansi light, this one is getting about 350-foot candles. So kind of in those higher low light, medium light locations. If you don't have a light meter, this is just a good resource just to kind of gauge roughly how much light your plant is receiving. If you want to get technical, you'll need like a par meter and measurements in ppfd, but that's a whole nother topic. Yeah, even I'm a little bit unfamiliar with that kind of stuff, but this light meter just helps me roughly place, or just allows me to roughly know how much light my plant is getting in a certain place like this. So it's kind of in that medium light range. So far they like it, and obviously they're flowering and looking super healthy. The last thing I want to talk about is fertilizer. I just use this brand right here. It is a 1555. It's the NPK nutrients. You just basically mix it up in a container of water. It's got a little dropper. One thing I didn't realize when I first started growing orchids is that you don't want to fertilize when they're in the flowering stage. You can provide fertilizer when the plant is actively pushing out roots and leaves. So don't fertilize when the plant is in bloom. I don't think I'm going to be doing much with these ones other than cleaning up a few of these roots. Like this one right here is pretty much dead, so I don't want to disturb these roots lower in the pot. They're in a nice chunky mixture, but anything that I see just kind of rotting like some of these roots, I'm just going to cut them off. So I'm just going to try and pull this one out of the pot. Should come out fairly easy. Okay, well, that wasn't really in there all that much. And actually, I'm glad I took it out because it's in one of these foam pod things as well. So I'm just going to try and remove that and then just clean up the root system here a bit. So it's actually coming off quite easily. And you can see the roots that are in the soil. They're more of that kind of white and even like a little bit yellow. The ones that are exposed to air, they are nice and green. They're full of chlorophyll and they can help, like I said, with photosynthesis. Just going to go around and cut off all of these dried up gross roots. So something like that I'm going to cut off to where it is healthy again. Here's another root. This one's pretty much shriveled up. This needs a good soaking. Usually when you go to big box stores, they're usually just soaking wet because they water them daily. But this one is actually super dry. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do with the root system on this one. Right here, it's broken and snapped off, so that's just rot waiting to happen. So I'm going to cut this one off as well. And then I'm going to set it in the pot for right now. I don't want to break those flowers off. So one thing I was worried about is just how large this container is. What I think I'm going to do is place the plant, actually I'm going to take this leaf off here too, just kind of yellowing and wilting. I'm going to place the plant a little bit higher like this, and for the bottom of the pot, just as a filler, maybe like a third of the pot, just at the bottom, I'll place perlite, just kind of as like a base layer. I'm going to take the other one out of the pot here as well. This one's got, it's got a bit of a mess here, so got some dry roots and yeah, some dead roots. So I'm going to cut all those off, give it a good soaking as well. I probably should have watered it right now, but I'll water it after a repot. So this is what I wanted to happen. The roots staying just in one ball like that. The rest I'm just going to cut off. I'm not going to disturb it any further, any more than I have to. So yeah, there's just one kind of dried up root right here. I'm going to cut that off, and that's all I'm going to do with this one here. I am going to reuse this bark. There's nothing wrong with it at all. This one I'm going to take out of the pot. I'm going to put it in between the two larger ones. This is another Phalaenopsis orchid. It is purple in color, I was told. But again, there's just like this root needs to come off. It's rotten. Here's an old flower spike that's been finished. It's brown. I'm just going to cut that off. There's a crunchy root up here. This one has just been recently watered. So I'm going to cut off all these. This is root rot. There's no sheath around the root, and it's just left with this little string. So I'm going to cut that back. That has had rot at some point. And just clean up the rest like that. Oh, there's some chunky ones like that. That's all you have to do. When you bring an orchid home, look at the roots, clean it up. The rest of them look super healthy, so I'm not worried about that. There. Good as new. Another reason why I think these orchids will do very well in this wally grow is because it has these holes or these perforations on basically all around the pot. And when I bought this, I actually drilled some extra holes in the bottom. So this is exactly what this plant needs, is airflow to the entire root system. It needs to breathe. It can't be waterlogged. It can't be sitting in soggy soil. So yeah, I think this will do very well in this pot. It does have a little watering reservoir at the back as well. You can remove that if you want, but I think I'm just going to leave it in for now. Okay, added some perlite in the bottom. I've already kind of pre-soaked it, so that is the base layer. I'm going to size up the one that had the soil remaining intact. Maybe something like that. I think that's a good height for sure. It's not coming above the top there. So something like that for placement. Maybe I can turn it a little to the side. That way it can remain upright. And then I'm going to fill it in with soil or a substrate. I'm just using the VeryPlants aeroid mix. There is a discount code down in the description of this video as well if you're interested in using this type of mix. And then same with this plant right here. I'm going to place it just on the other side. Might have to get my tripod. That way I can have two hands. So something like that. And then I'll place this one maybe right in the middle just to kind of fill it out. So this is the purple one. I'm going to have the white with little purple speckling, and then this beautiful one. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit closer, and then, like I said, I'm going to be using the rest of the original soil. It's going to take some more of this perlite out. I'm just going to dig a little bit of a deeper hole. Put that there for now. Something like that. And then I'm going to set this one up nice and straight. And then I'm just going to dump this in. I can clean it up later. Oh, I don't want any in the reservoir. Almost getting some back there. Once you get it in that little water reservoir, any sort of soil is like impossible to get out, unless you get a vacuum. Okay, that one's staying upright. Now I'm just going to use this mixture. It's a combination of like orchid bark and looks like some rock. It's kind of a nice gritty mixture. Something like that. And same thing, I'm actually going to use a smaller cup just to get into the difficult areas here. I'm going to be placing this little guy just in the front, like so. I don't know if this is like a miniature version or just a smaller variety, and if it stays small like this, but time will tell, I guess. I'm going to put it right in there, and I can't wait until all of these are in bloom at some point. And of course, afterwards, I'm going to give these a good soaking, give them a good spray. Holy moly, making a mess. Didn't say this was going to be an easy project. So here's the finished product, and unfortunately I did have to get the leaves a little bit wet. I cleaned them off with any excess soil, plus I thoroughly watered the orchid bark just so those roots could get moisture again. But I think it looks pretty good. It filled out nicely. I thought it was going to be quite a bit of bare areas or gaps in the pot, but I'm going to take it upstairs, place it on the wall, see how it looks, and hopefully it does well in the new placement. It's getting kind of later in the afternoon, but this is the placement. Don't mind my drapes hanging up there. I do have a Soltech grow light that is pointing down towards the leaves, so I really didn't know how the setup would look with the plants in bloom. So yeah, I'm kind of undecided. Yeah, it might look a little bit better during the day. Maybe I'll get a shot of when there's more light outside, but the shelf is looking good. Everything else is looking fine. But I think I need to see it in the daylight, I guess, to really grasp how this plant, or how the plant looks in the wally grow in this spot. I'm happy with the light placement. Like the light is definitely going on the leaves for sure. So it should work out fine. Maybe I just have to clean up some of these other plants, just get them out of the way. But overall, I think it looks pretty decent. And as for this little one right here, I'm going to repot this one later, so I'm going to clean up, I'm going to have some supper. I'm also going to slide in some footage of what the wally grow plant looks like with the orchids during the day. So let me know what you guys think of the entire project, what it looks like in that area. It's probably not the greatest placement just because I have that shelf so close, but let me know down in the comment section what you guys think of the way it looks, your experience with orchids, all that kind of stuff. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave it down in the comment section as well. Thanks for watching all my videos. Appreciate the support. Take care, everyone. Bye.